What's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of the Starchild Junior Stuffs and Things podcast. We had to pre-record this. I teased y'all with the live Flea interview, but I had an audio issue, so we're just gonna record this, keep it moving, and y'all can check it out later, because y'all know what this is, man. Everything still applies to those of you guys who was watching me live on my intro. So we're gonna get right back on into it. We have my boy, my uncle, Mr. Flea, in the building with me today. And before we left off, I had set this whole thing up about how I had recorded on the Freaky Styley record, the Red Hot Chili Peppers Freaky Styley record that George had produced. And I was just telling you guys about how my first paid session at 7 years old was on that song, Brothers Cup. I'm the young type. That's me. And so Flea was just about to tell you guys about his experience actually hearing that for the first time and what he thought of that.
Yeah, I was, when you talk about it, it just brings me back to that time. And, that was a really early recording session for us, too, even though, it was our second album, but I hadn't been in the studio much in my life.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden we found ourselves like uprooted from everything we knew, just being these like Hollywood punk rock street kids. And here we are with Dr. Funkenstein in Detroit at United Sound, hanging out with Gary Scheider and George Clinton, Michael Clip Payne and Andre Fox, and just everybody that was around, like all the Funketeers. And it was just, I was so happy, just to be welcomed into the community. You know what I mean? And like welcome with love. And it was just an awesome thing. So it conjures up a lot of memories and a lot of feelings, and it's very emotional for me. But I remember in particular, like hearing you were like Gary's little son came and sang on Brothers Cup today. You got to hear it. And they came with the cassette. Everything was cassette then. That was before CDs. Popped in the cassette. They were just like, "Oh shit, it's so funky. How could a little kid be so in pocket?" And it was just so the spirit of it was so good, and it was a real exciting time for us, and that was a beautiful thing. And so, once again, after all these many years, thank you for your fine performance on Brothers Cup.
Oh man, thank y'all for having me, man. That was too cool. I remember running around that session, and like I ran around United Sound like I owned it all the time. You know what I'm saying? I spent enough time in there, and I remember just like I ran to the little break room, where everybody goes to eat.
Yeah.
And Anthony was in there writing his verse.
Yeah.
And I walked in, because I was always like, I was always curious, and I was a lot more, I would ask questions, and I talked with everybody.
Yeah.
So I walked in there and I said, "Hi." He says, "Hi, I'm Anthony." I says, "I'm Garrett." He says, "How you doing?" He was like, "Check it out, man." He was like, "I'm writing this rap, man." He was like, "I wrote something, man. I want you." He's like, "Tell me what you think." And he started doing his rap for me or whatever. And I'm looking
at Brothers Cup coming to your town, bringing tubs of love. We're gonna spread it around.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at him because I'm 7. I'm just looking at him. I'm like amazed. I'm like, wow, he's rapping. I had never seen a white dude rap before, man. I'm like, I've seen the Beasties on TV, but now it's like, oh God, I'm seeing this in person. And he got a rhythm, and he was getting it in, and he was like, "What you think, man?" I was like, "Cool, man." I was like, "Cool," and he was just like, "Yeah, man." He was just as friendly as he wanted to be, and and when I think back on it now, I'm like, man, I could tell when I think back on it, I'm like, man, those cats, they were fresh in the studio back then. I could tell they were young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they were probably just as amazed with the whole situation. You know what I mean? It was cool, man. And then when I got a chance to get on the record, I didn't really think anything of it because they had thrown me on stage before and everything from that, by that time. So I kind of knew my way around. And I just remember George saying, "Say it louder. We are the Brothers Cup." Like,
Cup Scouts.
Yeah, we are the Cup. Yeah. And then I got a $50 check sent to the house, and then we got a copy of the vinyl, and my name was on the vinyl. It said Garrett Soundcheck Scheider. I was like, oh man, I'm in the big time now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the cool thing was, it was like, so shortly after that session.
Oh shit! I'm so sorry. Hold on 1 second. Something's going crazy. Hold on.
Do your thing. Do your thing. Good to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what I was
My
gonna
wife
say.
mad at me.
Oh man, it's all good. Tell her I said hi. She just walked by. Hi,
Yeah.
girl. So what I was gonna say. So now, shortly after that, now I can remember being at home, and I'm
Mm,
in my house. I used to be like a movie buff as a little kid. I watched like every '80s movie that come out that was worth anything. I watched it.
mm.
On cable, out at the video store, whatever. So I'm home playing, and I'm watching this movie, Big Shots. Is a big no Tough Guys. I'm
Uh,
watching Tough Guys, and
yeah,
I'm thinking nothing of it. Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. It's
yeah.
probably one of the last movies they did. These guys, they were old, man.
They
But
were
man,
old. Yeah.
yeah, watching this movie, thinking nothing of it. Then that bar scene comes up, and that bar scene comes on. My dad walked in my room like Johnny on the spot and looked right at the TV. And he said, for few seconds, he says, "Oh, that's Anthony." I said, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, that's Anthony. Remember you met him at the studio? That's Anthony and them." I was like, "Oh, wow." And then, and then as it just went on, it was just like Chili Peppers. They're on the radio. Chili Peppers have a hit. You know what I'm saying? I get to high school. Everybody's give it away, give it away, give it away.
Yeah.
I went on a retreat when I was in performing arts high school
Mm,
before we got to school, and they were banging it on the bus because it was just I think it was kind of still fresh. It just come out. They were
yeah.
banging it on the bus. And I remember just sitting on the bus thinking to myself, like, man, these cats don't even know, man. I'm on these guys, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was an
Yeah.
exciting time. But
Oh
it's funny
man.
because like just to roll back a little bit, when you talk about like being a kid and running around and being excited, like the experience for us too was like being a kid. It was
Yeah.
like being a kid in the candy store. You know what
I
I
can
mean? Like
imagine.
it's all so eye opening and being with people who were so experienced in the studio and made so many classic records, and all of a sudden we're in there, and I was just like, every second.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah. Anyways, I just had to say it. But and also, that Tough Guys movie. Um, that was that was earlier. That was before we did that. Like before we made Freaky Styley. I think that was
Okay.
before. That was we had just made our first record.
Okay. I saw it on cable after the fact. So
Yeah.
it probably had been out already. I was just
Yeah.
watching it on cable, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
you know,
And it's possible I have that wrong too in my pot-addled memory.
yeah,
But
I have no idea. I do remember after the session, I saw the movie though, and Dad was like, "Yeah, that's Anthony. Remember you met him at the
yeah.
studio?" I was like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah."
Yeah.
So that's some cool history, man, and I'm proud. I'm proud that I get to share that with you guys, man, because
Yeah.
because I watched it, and kind of part of me feels like I kind of watched y'all go from little kids to all of a sudden these superstars. So with that being said, proud of you cats, man. Good
Thank
job, good
you.
job.
And likewise, I'm proud of you too. It's awesome. Like when we were touring together in Australia, like a year ago now, right? Like just about a
Yeah,
year ago.
yeah,
And just hanging out and watching you all play and watching you play and sing every night. It's so beautiful, because you see people through the years, and a lot of people who I grew up with, the people I know, like they didn't make it. You know what I mean? Like for one reason or another. And sometimes even to the reason of just like giving up on their dreams and giving up on what they held close to how they wanted to
yeah.
express themselves in their life. So whenever like to see you and like having met you when you were 7 years old, you know what I mean? To like look at him, like a grown man up there rocking and owning it, and then
Uh-huh.
talking to you afterwards and like being met with this like this awesome spirit is it feels good. Oh, it's just a
Uh-huh.
good feeling thing all the
I
way around.
appreciate that, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate that so much, man.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's get on into you now.
Mm.
We'll start here. I mean, because most folks, they know the Chili Pepper thing, and they know that you play bass, and they know that you're a bad dude, and you wild as hell on stage. We know all of that, and we all know that your greatest ever accomplishment is your greatest ever work, the thing that you're gonna hold most dearest is that regurgitated youth that you played on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
absolutely.
yeah,
I feel like my
so
whole life was building up to that moment of regurgitated youth.
yeah.
Everything.
So all that to say, we know about the musical side, right? I want to take this interview and try to dig into the side of Flea that most people might not know.
Mm.
So I want to start here because I read your book, Acid for the Children. You
Mm.
blessed me with a copy of it and you autographed it for me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for reading it.
Oh man, as soon as I got it, I sat down and started reading, and I think I read it in like 2 or 3 days, man. I
Mm.
really enjoyed it. So a few of the parts that really stuck out for me though, because as I read it, what I realized actually was I read it and felt like, wow, I kind of got more in common with this cat than, I'm saying, I probably even realized, it was kind of
Yeah.
deep. So one thing in particular that kind of struck me was how you were kind of influenced even to get into music as a little kid by your father, Walter.
Yeah.
You referred to him as in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, Walter, and I guess we have that in common, right? Like I mean, Walter is my stepfather, but my
right,
real dad left when I was a kid. I was 7 years old, 6, 7 years old, right around there. He left. And my mom remarried this guy, Walter, who was a jazz musician.
right.
And he was a real complicated dude, as you know. There was about drug addiction and craziness and very unpredictable, difficult behavior that was unsettling for a child. But the music part of the equation taught me something that is giving me something to reach for my entire life.
Okay,
And in particular, I think because he was a jazz musician, and that type of music, and I don't mean to like change, one music is different than another music because it's all the voice of God, but when I would watch these guys and they played bebop,
uh
like Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk style bebop,
huh,
and the music was so fast and crazy and wild and sophisticated and spiritual and emotional, like an exorcism of the demons within, that as a kid, it just, like, the first time I ever saw them play, it just leveled me. Like, I didn't know that human beings could do that. I didn't know it
right,
was possible. You
right,
know what I mean? Like, I heard music on the radio and I sang along with the Beatles, and you know what I mean? But when I saw that, like, it just blew my mind. You know what I
okay,
mean? And that feeling, like just that natural feeling that you have when you're a kid and something really turns you on. Like I remember literally just rolling around on the floor like I could nothing ever I never felt that good before. Rolling around just laughing and yelling shit and not because, just by because it was like sheer love and light directly from the divine source coming through me.
so,
And
so
music at its purest, that's what it does, And so
yes,
it changed me forever and gave me that, like, everything I ever do is for that feeling, like to
so
serve that.
that kind of reminded me of so my mother, she used to have a band. We lived in Atlanta when I was a kid, and she had a local band that she played with around there that my her and my dad, they used to write songs together, and
Mm,
they used to write for her group, and they used to come to our house and rehearse in our garage. And
mm,
essentially your experience in reading it in the book, it reminded me, I was probably about 2 or 3 years old at the time.
right.
It reminded me of being in the garage with my mother and her band while she would be rehearsing, and
Wow.
it was kind of the same thing. I would just kind of just take it all in and be just so amazed by it all.
Yeah.
How and it how good it felt, how good it
Yeah.
sounded. I wanted to mimic everything. Like I kind of picked up a love for playing drums at that point. I used to have a little mini set, and I would set it up next to her drummer and mimic him, and just be so exhilarated and fascinated. It was such an experience, man.
Yeah, man.
So
And I imagine too, like, so proud of your mom. You know what I
yes,
mean? Like, my mom is magic.
yes,
She can do
yes,
this.
yes. She was,
Like,
and she is so dope. That like that's the one blessing that I'm so glad that I have, to have two dope, wonderfully talented parents
yeah.
who who they exposed me to this from the time I was out the womb. Like before I was born, I was, already experiencing all of this. You know what I mean? So I was right out the womb and just right into, this magical experience and this inspirational experience. And I've been soaking it up ever since, man.
So great. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
remember when we were making a Freaky Styley record, like I knew your dad as a guitar player and a singer, and just starchild, like this incredible character. But I remember him like I remember one morning in the studio, and it was like I got there early, no one was there. I think the lights were all like off or whatever, and your
Uh-huh.
dad was just there sitting at the piano, just throwing down
Yeah.
at the piano, and I just kind of sat there quietly and listened to him. He was singing a little bit, playing a piano, and like, but it just this beautiful, soulful, sensitive, like mood
Yeah.
of like he was just like not playing to try to write something, not trying playing to try to please anybody, just making something beautiful because it felt good. That meditative release,
And
and
every time he would get around the piano, he would do that too. We
yeah,
had a grand when I was a little kid, so I
mm,
remember him playing a lot. Matter of fact, he used to play. They were writing "Dog Is Man's Best Friend" at the time. Him and my
yeah,
mother, they contributed on the writing on that. And I
mhm,
remember that was one thing I would hear him always playing at home, and just be amazed, like, oh wow, he plays guitar too. I mean, plays piano too. You
yeah.
know, yeah, that's
Yeah,
I,
and
I
what was your mom's main thing? Did she? What was her
she
main?
she she messed around with the piano, but you know what my mother's dope at? My mother is one of the dopest writers ever. You know what I'm saying? Like my mother would write some lyrics that would, like okay, the song "It Don't Come Easy" on that record, that Regurgitated Youth record I put
Yeah.
out. That
Hmm.
was actually something that I re-recorded of hers.
Well,
Her and my dad wrote it for her band when I was a
mm,
kid, but she actually penned the lyrics. And the lyrics, they just, it was almost like a window into her soul. You know what I mean? Like it was so refreshing to hear, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And it just made me want to redo the song, man. I was just so touched by just her lyricism. And
yeah,
and a lot of people don't know too that she wrote, if anyone can ever decipher that lyrics that's being sung on Pro Mental, Shit Back Wash, Psychosis, Enema Squad,
yeah,
that stuff that my dad is singing under there, if you can ever decipher that stuff, my
yeah.
mother, she actually penned that lyrics.
Wow,
That's lyrics that she penned.
wow.
I actually remade that song and I released it on SoundCloud the way it was supposed to be made.
Yeah,
I got the lyrics from her and I remade it. But
wow,
yeah, that's what she was really, really,
wow,
really dope at. She
Uh,
can write. She can
wow. That's
write.
incredible.
Yeah.
I have a very distinct memory of being. It was a time we were in Detroit actually,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going. I went through a real sad time. I was like super depressed. It was. I remember I just went like you hit a low for a week or something, and I remember that song. Like I had it in my headphones, and I was walking down the street, and got like just lost in it, and it really did something magic to me. Like it stopped, and I was like, it gave me a new perspective. Like I was like, hold on a second, what am I doing? Like the world is full of possibility and love. Like and I'm sitting here like being sad. And
It's
and I
crazy.
remember telling George about it. And he was going, "Yep, that song will do it to you. It has magic quality." you know.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people might not know, but you have a love for trumpet.
Mm. Yeah.
So is that was a first love, right? Even before bass playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I played bass, I didn't even like rock music. I didn't know anything about it. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. It wasn't. I wasn't interested in it. And I think, mostly because I, really admired my stepfather, the jazz bass player, and him and his guys, they like look down on rock
Of
music.
course.
It's like, this is like, this is music for dumb people. This is people who care about haircuts. Like we're into music.
Spoken like a typical jazz musician.
Yeah, the arrogant jazz musician. And it's actually kind of sad because the ones you look at like Miles Davis, he embraced everything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it really pigeonholed them. And then when what they did wasn't cool anymore, a lot of them just were fucked. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't work. But so I just wanted to be a jazz trumpet player. I idolized Dizzy Gillespie and Miles and Freddie Hubbard and Lee Morgan and Kenny Dorham and the great jazz trumpet players were my heroes when I was a kid. And until when I got into high school and I met Hillel, who you met when we made Freaky Styley, and he got me playing bass and turned me on
R.I.P.
to Hendrix.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah, turned me on to Hendrix and Zeppelin and all that. Um, and I got into rock music, and it was a whole new love affair. But as a kid, my goal in life was to be a trumpet player. I'm gonna grow
Okay.
up. I'm gonna play a jazz trumpet player. I'm gonna wear a badass suit. I'm gonna be slick. I'm gonna play it all. I'm gonna be like Dizzy Gillespie. You know what I mean? And cut to punk rock. It all went out the window, and me trying to get laid in high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine what happens. I mean, it's amazing what happens when you discover girls in school, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was like a
Changes you
perfect
make.
storm. It was a perfect storm of me becoming really close with someone who lived and breathed electric guitar,
Uh-huh.
and him asking me to be in his band and saying, "Why don't you just learn the bass?" And me just kind of being, "Well, sure." And then cut to all of a sudden girls talking to me. You know what I mean? I was so shy and scared of girls.
Uh-huh.
And it all dovetailed, and I was like, "Whoa, this is happening!" And
Uh,
then, but crazily enough, though, um, when I was a kid in high school, or even before that, like junior high school, so I was in junior high school from 74, 73, 74. I started middle school,
okay.
and P-Funk was, getting big,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really big in my school. And I liked funk. I didn't like rock music, but funk had horns in it.
Uh-huh.
So as a kid, I could imagine myself, well, I could be one of the guys. You know what I mean? So it made sense, and I loved like so early on. I loved P Funk. I loved Ohio Players. I loved the Bark. I liked hearing. I liked because they had horns.
Yeah.
Um, so that was more. And so when I started playing rock music, it was more like. And I think one of the reasons that the Chili Peppers, ended up like we always thought of ourselves as a funk band, even though no one else did, but because it was filtered through all these other cultural things, but
Right.
but like funk rhythms was just natural for me. It was
Okay.
never like, oh, let's try to put this together with this. It was just like we were just being ourselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like organic rhythm for me, and still is. Like I feel very natural in funk rhythms.
You are naturally funky, Unc. I
Now,
vouch for you.
thank you, I appreciate that.
You got it. All right, so check this out. This is what I'll do now. We let's venture on into some movies before we get going. Um, Hold on, because I want to pull up a few right quick. I want to do something right quick because so I didn't even realize how many movies you've been in. You know what I'm saying? You're like a bona fide movie star too. You know what I mean? You're an actor, bro. You know what I'm saying? You're probably an actor more so than you're a musician at this
I don't
point,
know about
looking at
that.
this shit. Yeah,
I do enjoy it.
yeah. You must enjoy it because you
Yeah, and
get
not
some.
always, not always. And actually, I know we're going to get into this, but for a long time, I just kind of winged it. I would just
Okay,
show up and like just do it, like, hey, play pretend. This is fun. Let's do it.
okay,
But at a certain point, I started taking it really seriously.
okay.
And we could talk. I don't know if you want to go through movies, but
Yeah, yeah,
but when
yeah.
I started taking it really seriously was when it became very meaningful
Okay,
but not as fun because it would be like painful because I would go so deep and
okay,
like really like touch raw nerves within myself that triggered a lot of like anxiety and pain and stuff. Kind of started. Let me go through this, but I did this movie called Lowdown.
okay,
I did it. I don't know. It's like 7 years ago now or something like that.
okay,
And it's about this jazz pianist called Joe Albany and
okay,
his daughter, who's my age, who grew up in Hollywood, in like the poor part of Hollywood, and her father's this jazz musician who's this brilliant musician, but he's a junkie. You know what I mean? He's a heroin addict, and he's a mess, and he's a sweet guy, but just addicted to heroin, you know.
Uh-huh.
And she, you know, he passed away, but she grew up and wrote this movie about it and asked me to be in it, and I played a part of his father. But it's all about this girl's the same age as me, same town, same time, and I grew up with a heroin addict, jazz musician parent.
Hmm.
And it meant so much to me. Like she asked me to be in this movie, and it hit so close to home. I was like, I'm really gonna, I want to honor this. Like I want to
Gotcha.
honor their story. I want to honor these jazz musicians who I could just know these guys. You know what I mean? Who like grew up like they want to be Charlie Parker. They want, you know, and then come like the '70s. Here's these very accomplished musicians, these jazz musicians, and no one gives a shit. You know what
Okay.
I mean? And they're bitter. They look down on other forms of music, and
Yeah.
this meant a lot to me. Like I could just relate so deeply. So, and I'm playing this like junkie jazz musician guy, and I really just I studied acting, you know, with a teacher, and really learned. Like we know, how, like when you and I when we play music at our best,
Hmm.
we're letting the demons out. All our pain, all our sadness, all our insecurity, everything, as well as joy and triumph, don't get me wrong, but it's all coming out. We're able to transmogrify it from pain into something beautiful.
It's a cleansing.
And that's what we do.
Hmm.
And I never knew that you could do that with acting. I always thought of acting as like pretending to be something. But that's when I learned that acting is another way of letting that pain out. And it's a different technique. But when I learned that, was on that movie actually, and then I did a few movies since then, and each time I started going really deep in that way, and so it became not as like just fun, like woohoo, like hey, let's make a movie, to
I
like oh
got you.
shit, like let's get deep, you
I
know?
got you. I got you.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
Okay, so this is what I want to do. First, let me ask you this. What was your first movie?
My first movie was a movie called Suburbia.
Okay, that was
And,
your first.
yeah, and it was a movie about these like punk rock kids who live in a
Hmm.
squat, an abandoned house.
I remember seeing
Um,
that as a kid.
yeah, and that was pretty common among the punk rock kids. A lot of them like kind of borderline homeless or whatever, and just like running around, getting into trouble, doing drugs, loving just the street, the
Right,
punk rock music, do it yourself, you know.
right.
Um, and and um, and so it was about that, and I had just you know, was just I didn't even know really about punk rock. I was a wild ass kid, but I still wanted to be Dizzy Gillespie. I actually no, I just joined this punk rock band, and I just just opened me up to this new world, and I made all these friends, and I started off like I had a little bitty part. And when I kind of like showed an aptitude for it, and the director started liking me, giving me more lines, and making my part bigger. And
Mm,
it's about this movie about these punk rock kids, and it's pretty flawed, but also captures a time and a spirit with all its flaws and craziness.
okay. So that was you getting your feet wet. All
Yep.
right. So let me ask you about this. I'm gonna just ask you about a few of these movies, and you just either give me an experience or something that you will always something that you took from the experience.
Yeah.
And we'll start with Back to the Future Part Two.
Okay. Back to the Future, Part Two, which I shot Part Two and Part Three at the same
Yeah.
time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It was what I remember about it. I was on tour with the Chili Peppers. I think we might have been touring Freaky Style, or maybe Uplift Mofo, the next record. And they cast me in this movie, and like in the middle of a tour, and I was like, we were playing clubs. Those were the days of doing like 46 shows in 47 days, kind of thing. And
Uh-huh. We
and flew
still
with
do it.
that and shit. And I flew home to like act in this big budget movie and came back, and I was just excited to be a part of it. I can't say, I mean, I wanted to do a good job and bring everything I could, but I can't say that it was as it wasn't as emotional for me as other movies. I wasn't around it enough to get as attached to because I always like other movies. I like fell in love with everybody, and that
Uh-huh.
one was kind of like a gig. I was in and out, but I'm really grateful for them for making me a part of it.
Did you like the role? The role was crazy.
Yeah, the role was crazy. I don't even know if I understood the role at the time. Like they explained it to me, you're just this weird devilish dude that shows up and like tempts Michael J. Fox to get into trouble. I had never seen the first Back
Uh,
to the Future. I
uh-huh.
didn't know. I didn't know anything.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. How about oh shoot. How about Baby Driver?
Okay, Baby Driver was really cool, and this is, even though it's a small part,
Uh-huh.
this is a film that, excuse me, that I play a bank robber, a criminal, and I do, the movie's about, it's about these guys who do bank robbers, and the main guy, this kid answer El Gort,
Mm-hmm.
plays this kid. What I really liked about it, the whole movie was based around music. Like, so did you see it?
No, I haven't seen Baby
Oh, okay.
Driver.
Well, the movie, like the star of the movie, is this kid who he doesn't never talks, and he's always listening to music. And the soundtrack of the film is really good. And the director took all the songs first and built the movie around the songs. So he
Okay.
made a playlist basically and wrote a film around a playlist,
Okay.
which is really, really, really cool. But anyways, so it's like the bank robbers, me, Jamie Foxx, and just two other dudes go and rob this bank and split up the cash, and everyone ends up getting murdered except me. I run off.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big part, but I took it real seriously. I really wanted to inhabit the space of someone that would end up being a bank robber, and like find that craziness, and I felt good about it. It was hard. I had the flu really bad when we shot it,
Oh,
and I
shit.
remember that being a bummer. I was like, oh, man, I look like shit. I got the flu. I have to go. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but it was cool, and a really great actors like Jamie is a fucking top of the line actor, and
Yeah,
so
he's
you know,
amazing.
yeah, and seeing someone like that work and how he was able to just like boom get like I have to fucking go get my head right. Like he'd just be hanging out, blah, 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 zoop, you see him, everything disappears. He's the fucking guy. Like the moment is living inside of him. Like it's a great actors. It's incredible.
Okay. So, all right. So the next one I'm gonna ask you about is my own private ID. Or was it my own private Idaho?
Yeah, my own private Idaho was one that was really meaningful for me. Um, I had, the director, the guy that wrote it and directed is Gus Van Sant. And I had first met him, he made a movie before that called Drugstore Cowboy,
Okay.
which is a great movie. And anyways, I had met him for Drugstore Cowboy, and almost like he came down, like sometimes they'll see like 50 people for a part, right? And they narrow it down. And it came down to me and this other guy, and he went with the other guy. But I remember him telling me, um, this other guy's just more right for this part, but it's so nice to meet you, and I would love to cast you, next time I do a movie. And I kind of felt like that's nice, thank you, but yeah. And then cut to over from Private Idaho gives me the job, and it was really cool, great experience, hanging out. I made a bunch of friends. It's about these street hustlers in Portland, street kids, and I was a street kid. I knew that life.
Mm.
Um, I wasn't blowing dudes for money like the kids in this movie,
Right,
but
right, right,
but
right.
but I know that life.
I get it.
Yeah, and beautiful thing was I met River Phoenix started, and it was River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves, and I became really really close with River, and he is probably the kindest person I ever met in my life. Just
Really?
a beautiful, just the most big-hearted, warmest, kindest person. And most people are probably familiar that he died way, much too young from drugs. And all I can really say is he was just the most beautiful. You just don't. I never met any. I didn't know those kind of people existed when I met him. I didn't
Yeah.
know that there were people who didn't ever manipulate you or ever come at you with a weird angle or ever use you or ever like what I mean, like even people like once in a while they do something weird, like never, you just
Yeah.
like was just one of those fucking angel humans,
Yeah.
and
That's
and
why I asked you specifically about that movie
mm,
because specifically River Phoenix, I was a big fan of his as a child. He
yeah,
was like really like so as a child growing up with artistic parents, I
mm,
always and being such a movie buff, like if I wasn't in the midst of some kid mischief, I was sitting in front of a TV and I watched movies and I soaked them up like I understood everything that was going on, right?
Yeah.
and I would always be like so captivated and inspired by the child actors, and the really good ones.
Yeah.
Darius McCrary is one that I remember seeing him in that movie Big Shots. That's the one I mistaken your movie for. But he
Mm.
was in this movie Big Shots as a kid, and it was so inspirational. But I used to see River and stuff like Stand by Me,
Mm.
and just all these movies,
So
man.
man, Stand
And
by Me is a great one.
yeah, and he was just always so amazing. I mean, he was
Yeah.
such an amazing actor at that age that I just kind of like really keyed into him. And
Yeah.
when he passed away at such a young age, he was like, I guess, James Dean of that era. Yeah, when
Yeah.
he
Well, yeah, he was like, the girls loved him.
yeah, he was kind of James Deanish.
Yeah.
So yeah, when he passed away, I was just like so like floored, like I can't
Yeah.
believe it, man. So, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize that you had done that movie with him, and then I kind of realized that you guys were actually pretty close. So it was
Yeah.
interesting to get a perspective on him from someone who knew him.
Yeah, and I say all that stuff. Like, I know it's easy to say that your friend passed away, you'll say all this nice stuff, but truly, like, he blew me away with just kindness. And
Yeah,
also, he was a great musician too.
really.
He was a real guitar player and a real singer, had a real quirky style. He actually, his sister, Rain Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
they had a band called Alakazattic, and they are she's putting out a record sometime soon. I'm not exactly sure when, of their music, and it's all River playing guitar and singing. And I actually just the last few weeks played bass on some stuff. Like,
Oh,
the
that's cool.
recordings were kind of messed up recordings, and I went in and played bass. So it was just like a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting in my garage playing, listening to River and Rain sing together and playing bass with it, and
Uh,
it felt so good.
Yeah, they had
Yeah,
a deep family, man. All those names
yeah,
of Rain and Liberty and
yeah,
Summer and
yeah.
Leaf,
Yeah, yeah,
River.
Leaf.
Yeah,
Well, that was Joaquin when he was
yeah.
he was Joaquin, but he was like wanted to have a nature name like all the other kids.
Uh-huh.
So it was Leaf for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's a pretty interesting thing, man. It's interesting to get a perspective from someone who knew him because I was always fascinated by him. Yeah, as an actor, man. He was
yeah.
amazing.
Oh, you would have loved him as a human too.
I'm sure I would have, man.
Yeah.
I regret I never got a chance to actually meet that guy, man.
Mm.
R.I.P. River, man.
Yeah.
So now we'll get into this last one. So you were in Queen and Slim.
Yeah.
I actually watched this last night so that I could make sure that I was up
Oh,
on your
cool.
role. I
Yeah.
sat up last night and watched it before I went to bed,
Mm.
and I noticed that role is not much unlike the Flea that I actually know.
Mm. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I got to tell. This is kind of apart from the film, but I just got to say it real quick because it's just a quick little story that's interesting.
Okay.
Is that sometimes things happen and they're just really meant to be.
Uh-huh.
So I got married just about a year ago,
Yes, you did.
and my my wife, right when I started seeing her, we were keeping it quiet, not telling anyone. We're dating. It's
Uh-huh.
like we've been dating a couple of weeks. I get the script in the mail called Queen and Slim, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh man, this is an important movie. This is some powerful shit. Lena Waite wrote it, and it's a great script,
Mm-hmm.
right? About important shit. And I'm reading it, and I call my agent. I'm like, whatever they want, anything, just I'll be there. I'll do it. You know what I mean? And I go meet with the director, Melina Metsukas. It's a great director. I talk with her, and I'm always kind of nervous when you meet with the director because they might be, oh, he's not right, right? Anyways, she's awesome. A few days later, I get the call. They want you for the part.
Uh-huh.
Great, so happy. And so I tell this woman, my wife Melody. I say to her, I'm like, hey, I just got asked to be in this movie. It's a really beautiful script. I'm so excited. She's like, oh yeah, what's it called? And it's called Queen and Slim. She goes, oh, that's my best friend Melina's movie. And so, and so it's just this wild thing. I meet this woman who I totally fall in love with. Her, I'm like, I'm going to marry this woman. At the
Uh-huh.
same time that they don't even know that we know each other. Get
Uh-huh.
offered to be in this movie, and it's like from two different parts of my life, and they're best friends. So it was a really awesome, and
That,
she's real tight with Lena too. So it was a really beautiful.
that
Um, like
It's
whatever you call it,
it's interesting how
synchronicity,
synergy. It's interesting how the
synergy.
universe
Yeah.
works. It's
So, anyways, yeah, and then I was just so it meant a lot to be me to be in that movie, and that they asked me to do it. It's such an important film and so prescient. Especially like you look at the state of the world right now, and the current civil rights movement that's been ignited by the murder of George Floyd, and it's kind of about that straight up.
mm-hmm.
It's straight up about that, and this was long before what I mean. This current thing, it's just and I'm really grateful, of course, that I got to play a part that's a good guy. You know what I mean? But I would have happily played the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like anything to help bring that story to life, and to do it. It really means a lot to me to be a part of it. I'm honored to be a part of it. I think it's a really important movie. It's a painful movie. It's a painful movie.
Yes, it is.
Um, but it's important, and it's got deep love in it, and it's beautiful to look at too. It's just like Melina has such a great eye for these beautiful shots, like when they're first driving through the sunrise, sun is
Mm-hmm.
rising, the first
Mm-hmm.
morning, and
They
as
didn't.
Daniel. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say they did an amazing job shooting it.
Yeah, and it's really like Melina. She made like those award-winning Beyonce videos and stuff, and she's a real. She has a remarkable vision as a filmmaker, and I just hope to see her make lots of more movies. And of course, I'd be honored to be a part of all of them.
I'm sure you
Um,
got you a part. You did good, man.
yeah,
I'm
I
glad.
took it real seriously. It was very painful, and I normally would never talk about this, but when I was getting ready to do it, I really wanted to look. I'm a white man. You know what I mean? I've been like white privilege my whole life, and I'm very conscious of that. You know, um, but in my effort to, and I've always, all my life, I've been around all different kinds of people, and I'm lucky that way because I think like a lot of like most racial hatred comes out of ignorance. It's stupidity and ignorance, but it's a big part of it. People just don't communicate. They don't fucking talk. They get stuck in their worlds. You know what I mean? Like, but, and
Not
I
ready
was
to
lucky.
listen.
Yeah, and not listen. I'm lucky from a young age that I was exposed to everybody, and it's I'm very count myself very fortunate. But in getting ready for that film, I really went and to try to like deeply do my best to feel the pain. I went and like looked at like lynchings and all this shit. You know what I mean? And just just you know
Yeah,
felt a lot of pain, and just for the ancestors, I just wanted to try and be there and do my best to understand.
yeah. Well, you did good. I'm glad you got to play a good guy too, man. Because
Yeah, me too.
if you'd have had to play a cop or something, man, I'd be like, oh man, I can't interview that guy. I got to let that wash off first. Because I get into movies, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I get scarred by movies like that and stuff like that. Like it takes me a little while to shake it off and be like, it's just a movie. It's just a movie. I'm one of those
Yeah,
guys, man. So
yeah,
yeah, I might not have liked you for about a week or so.
yeah.
Yeah, you might not have been able to be my uncle for about a week. No,
In a
but
row.
real shit. What you're saying, man, and I'm in between everything that's going on right now, man. I'm glad that you're staying safe and taking care, and in this situation, we have a lot of situations going on right now. Feels like like we in some kind of bizarro world right now. You know what I mean? I'm just glad that I get a chance to, to still do things like this, to get a chance to just still release and, like stuff like this is therapeutic for me, man. So,
Yeah,
I feel like I'm fortunate and blessed to be able to step inside of the box like this. If even if I can't be on the stage right now, at least I can always find a way to entertain the people and kind of
absolutely.
shut that off and
And,
even
and
give people something else to give people something to shut that off too. You know what I mean?
totally. And all of our stories are like kind of everything.
Yeah,
You know
they
what I
are,
mean? And
man.
whether they're expressed, no matter what art form expresses them, or whatever. Like sometimes you express your story just by chatting with the waiter at the, you know what I mean, at a
Exactly.
diner. But our stories and sharing them and communicating is our hope of succeeding as a human race. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like
indeed.
we have to like know each other and connect and build bridges of love, and that's our hope. You know what I mean? Like not, the other things, like yes, we got like certain things we got to like not destroy the environment and educate our children and all this stuff, but it has to like start with love and unity, and that's our only chance, man.
Let's start with the basics, y'all. Love and unity, man. Let's
Yeah,
start with the basics. And
absolutely.
wear a mask. God damn it.
Yeah, wash your hands. Wear a
Wash your
mask.
hands,
I
damn
don't.
it.
That's one thing. Like I just don't. I don't. I don't.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
what is
telling
it
you.
like? It's like this will stop people from dying. Like
Well,
why?
I'm not doing that. I have a Second Amendment right that says I have a
Yeah,
freedom to speech. I'm like, well, what the hell does that have to do with wearing a mask, you selfish son of a bitch?
yeah. It's yeah. It's. I really don't. Like sometimes, like if it's a point of view that I really disagree with, and I might even think it's a cruel point of view, and it's an unkind point of view. But there'll be some like, okay, but I get it. This person is like, this is their experience. Like I kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, but this just makes no sense. Like
It
everybody,
none.
it's like you can get it and give it to someone, and your grandmother's gonna get sick and die. Like
So
what?
what? I'm still not wearing a mask.
Yeah, like
Like,
you
nope.
know.
Like, yeah, like you just wash your hands up and say, God bless us.
Yeah,
You know what
but
I
I
mean?
also like I feel like when Donald Trump was elected, I knew that there would be a lot of things that would be really, really difficult and hard.
Yeah.
But I also knew that it would usher in activism and consciousness, and it would raise a level of awareness of people
Mm-hmm.
of what's going on. And I feel like right now there's like serious awareness around. Like people are
Mm-hmm.
paying attention, and people are like learning, and people are doing stuff. You know what I mean? To like in whatever they can to like try. Let's try to make the world a better place. You know what I mean? Instead of just coasting in their lane. You know what I mean? Because I'm cool. You know what I mean? And so it gives in a way it's a really good time to be alive, and I have a lot of can't help but have a lot of hope for all of us. You know.
I tell you what, that's one of those reasons why I never question the universe, man, because like as crazy as things are right now, like you say, people are more aware. And I realize people are way more aware right now because there's no other distractions. Everyone's stuck in the house. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we got this virus out here keeping everyone in the house. You know what I mean? I never question the universe, man. Things
Yeah.
are happening for a reason. People are,
Yeah.
for some reason, we're being made to stay home. We're being made to focus. And these things are now happening in front of us for everyone to see. You
Yeah.
can't turn away.
No.
You can't ignore it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And when your eyes see it, you can't unsee these things.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So more
Yeah. No, it's
people.
like sometimes it'll be like you're sitting there like people watching TV. Oh, this awful thing happened. You know what I mean? This guy got killed for nothing. You
Hmm.
know, and but oh my God, I felt, honey, did you see that? It's really terrible. Uh,
But the Lakers are on.
the game is on. Go to the other
Uh-huh.
channel 7 real quick. Like, oh,
Uh-huh.
that's awful. But oh, come on, go. You know what I mean? Like, no,
Yeah, it's too
no. And
easy.
so
It was too easy for people to not have to involve themselves with that because it was too much other things going on in a lot of folks' lives, and now everything's shut down. They have to see these things. So like you said, and as unfortunate as these things are, now people are their eyes are open, and
yeah.
that's a good thing.
And I do believe that for one thing, the environment's getting a big break, and I do believe that consciousness is being raised, and a lot of really positive things can come of it.
So I just look at it as a reset, man. We gonna be all right. We just gonna sit back and
Yeah.
reset a little bit.
Reset, write
You,
some music.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
yeah,
So I
man.
tell you what, man, I think that I have taken up just about all of your time tonight. Um, but before I get out of here, before I let you go, let me get a drop from you.
Okay.
I just want you to tell the people who you are and that you are on the Star Child Junior Stuffs and Things podcast.
Okay. This is Flea, and I am honored to be here today on the Starchild Junior Stuffs and Things podcast. Peace and love to one and all, and that's it.
Yes, indeed. Oh, let me ask you one more thing
Yeah.
before I get you out of here too. What the Lakers gonna do?
They're gonna win it all.
They gonna win it all. I
They're
knew
gonna
you was
win it
gonna say
all.
that. You
They're
really
gonna
believe
win it
that,
all.
don't you?
Yeah,
You
yeah. I can't remember. Are you a basketball fan? Are you into?
hell yeah, man.
Oh,
I be
cool,
watching
man.
I watch all sports.
It's gonna be weird, right? Like
It is.
watching this in the first of all, like this time of year, basketball, end of July,
I
and it's just
know.
kicking off, and no fans, and I just don't know what's gonna happen. Like they're
Yeah,
gonna get in
what are you
there, and
gonna
then like
what you
three
gonna do?
players.
You're not gonna
What?
be able to be in the Staples Center giving them hell, man. What you gonna do?
I know.
What are you
I
gonna
know.
do, man? It's a
I'm gonna
conspiracy.
I'm gonna like get my little my what do you call it? Your my statue, my Magic Johnson shoe, all my stuff, my Kareem signed jersey. I'm gonna get all my stuff, put it up, park in front of the TV, and go crazy. I know.
You
I love it, man. It's artistry, man.
you the new sixth man.
Yeah.
He's the new sixth man. Jack retired, right? He's not coming to the games anymore, right?
He still comes, but he's slowed down significantly.
Yeah, see, you getting ready to be the new sixth man, so the new official
13th man.
mascot.
Yeah, man.
Now, good luck to your Lakers this year, man. You know, it's a shortened season. I think anything can happen with the way this is going to come together. It's just going to be interesting seeing how this even plays out.
Yeah, wait for you. So is it Wizards? Oh,
No, so here in DC, they give
yeah.
me all types of shit because I still root for all the Atlanta teams. Because
Ah,
I was born in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta till I was 14.
right.
And that's where all my
Right.
sports fandom started, even though all our teams sucked until about the 90s. And then
Right.
it was okay to be an Atlanta fan in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Braves were great, right?
In the
And
90s.
yeah,
In the
yeah, yeah.
80s, when I lived there
Oh,
and we
yeah,
used
yeah,
to go to the
yeah.
games, they were terrible.
Well, it's been a while for the Hawks, but Trey Young is real, dude.
Yeah, I like what the Hawks are doing.
Trey Young is wild, and there's that other kid, John
John
Thompson
Collins.
Collins. That's his name, right?
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they're doing.
yeah, yeah. Trey Young's exciting.
Yeah, and they're coming too. They still got a few. They got a lottery pick coming this year. They got a few
Right.
lottery picks that they're stacked with already. They're coming.
Maybe they'll get LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, I don't know if I want him.
Hard to know.
Yeah,
It's hard.
you know who I want? I want Weissman. That's who I want them to get.
I don't know the draft class that well this year. I don't.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
the boy who played for Memphis, who was ineligible for. They let him play for 12 games, and then they decided he wasn't eligible anymore. And he was
How can he not be eligible for the NBA?
no for he was playing.
Oh, right, right. Oh, I read about that dude.
Yeah, he plays for Penny Hardaway. He was playing for Penny Hardaway's Memphis squad, and he was having an eligibility issue. They let him
Right.
play like the first 12 games, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
they decided he wasn't eligible,
Hmm.
or something they made him go through, and he decided he was just going to go to the draft.
Right. Yeah. I mean, normally I get to know the college players at the tournament. Like, I watch the whole tournament real tight. But
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
I go to high school games and shit, dude. It's so fun.
Y'all don't ever get a pick anyway, do you?
Huh?
The Lakers don't ever pick. They don't ever pick in the first round anyway, do they?
I don't
Don't
have a
they
pick
trade
for
all
like
their
47 years.
Yeah, they trade all their picks for superstars.
Yeah. Come on,
Yeah. Well,
AD. Yeah. I'm
good
excited.
luck to your Lakers,
I'm
man.
excited. Thank you, Garrett. It's
Yes,
great to see you. And stay in touch. I'll talk to you soon.
indeed, man. You take care. Tell Melody I said hey.
I will for sure.
All right, take care, y'all.
All right. Bye now.